the Trotwood-Madison April 4th, 2024 work session. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. Ms. Allen, would you please call the roll?
Gladly. Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Carrington.
Present.
Mr. Lumpkin.
Yes.
Mrs. Simmons.
Yes.
And Mrs. Cherry.
Yes. May we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Next, we will have our mission statement will be read by Kaden Martin, kindergarten student at the Early Learning Center.
Testing, testing. This is your announcer here, Kaden Martin. Today, I'm going to be reading a card that was from Miss Thorny and Miss Lou. So let's get a round of applause. So everybody can look at their books and listen. If they have their phone, that's fine. They can either take a video or do a picture. But the only thing allowed inside is a picture. Actually, I forgot. It's a video. And once the video's done, once I'm done, everybody can get a chance to come up here and see if they can read it like me.
All right.
The mission, hold on. The mission of the Trotwood-Madison City Schools is to graduate all students prepared to excel in a global society with a commitment to lifelong learning by guaranteeing a challenging curriculum facilitated by an innovative and dedicated staff, community participation, and state-of-the-art resources in a stimulating atmosphere. You want me to read it again? Who wants to go first?
You have a job.
What an amazing job by Mr. Martin. Let's give him another round of applause. Next, I need a motion to adopt the agenda as present. Are there any changes to the agenda?
I have none.
Changes? I need a motion.
I make a motion to adopt the agenda as is.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved in second. Ms. Allen, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Carrington.
Yes.
Mrs. Simmons.
Yes.
Mr. Lumpkin.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
And Mrs. Cherry.
Yes. Motion passes. Next, we will have a presentation. The presentation by the Early Learning Center. Ms. Wilburn, the principal.
Actually, I would like to bring Ms. Wilburn up, and other principals, if you would like to come as well. She's going to do a presentation about our Arts Gala.
All right, good evening.
Good
So
evening.
I'm Ms. Wilburn, principal at the ELC.
Hello, I'm Ms. Sterner. I'm at Madison Park Elementary.
And I,
Excellent job, young man.
yes, and
Yes.
And so we have been working on an arts gala that is an action step from the arts grant that we got awarded earlier in the school year. So our buildings have been working very hard to create organic pieces of art to put in that gala. It's going to be a black tie event, and we wanted to make sure that we took time out to the board to extend an invite so that you know how hard our district has been working, how hard our students have been working, and how emphatical this program has been. So,
Oh, I'm gonna love this. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Watch her, yeah.
and as you're looking at your invite, the details of the gala is it is going to be May 9th from 6 to 8. It is a black tie affair. We do have art coming from Madison Park, Westbrook, and then we have a mural reveal from the middle school. So it will be held at the middle school, and we would just like your participation and your support while we come through this gala. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, but we're going to be as transparent as we can with planning things and make sure that you are fully included in what we have going on in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
It's going to be a very nice evening. Please come out and join us. We want to see you all dressed up all snazzy. I might even wear a dress.
I do know that that mural at the middle school is coming along beautifully, so that's going to be worth coming for that reveal.
Thank you. Next, we will have a presentation by Stephen Nass from the County Corp at Main Apartments.
Thank you for the opportunity today. My name is Steve Noss, and I'm the president of County Corp, and with me is Bob McCann. Bob is with Ober Development. We'd like to talk to you about the at-Main housing development that we're proposing in the city of Trotwood. First, County Corp, very briefly, we're a nonprofit, mission-oriented organization. We've been around. Just this week, we hit our 44-year anniversary. Our primary market area is within communities within the city, or excuse me, Montgomery County. We are doing lots of different things these days. We've spent the entirety of our time really helping homeowners, owner-occupied households, stay in their homes. We've been working with households, making sure they can make improvements to their homes like windows, doors, roofs, emergency and accessibility issues. We've acquired properties, we've sold them to homeowners. These are all things specific in Trotwood. Very recently, with the tornadoes that happened almost 5 years ago, we embarked upon a plan of constructing some single-family homes. And so far in Trotwood, I think we've done 5 out of the 22 that we have done in total. And every one of those is intended to be for rental households that were impacted by the tornadoes, and it's a first-time home buyer opportunity for them. So we've been really pleased working in the community, getting those houses into really as we all are aware, when you become a homeowner, it's a wealth equity builder down the road, generational, transformational, all that. So what we have with that Maine, one of the other big things that we do is we work to develop affordable housing. A large funding source that is available for multi-unit developments are tax credits. We are proposing to access tax credits in order to make that happen. The Department of Housing and Urban Development allocated funding to the state of Ohio for disaster recovery efforts. One of the major primary funding sources that will make this happen comes from that. I'm going to ask Bob McCann to come forward and give a brief about the project, and we'll be available for questions. Bob?
Thank you, Steve.
As Steve mentioned, my name is Bob McCann. I'm Chief Financial Officer and the Principal of the Ober Companies. We're a Dayton-based developer, has been in business 3 generations, 75 years. Really what we want to talk about, and the reason why we're here, is that the school district got a notification that's required under the Ohio Revised Code because the owner of the project has applied for bond cap to be issued by the Ohio Air Quality Development Agency. I have to pause when I think about this. And as a result of that, we wanted to give an overview of the development and then see if there were any questions, and then subsequently get together with the treasurer to get a better handle on the school funding. As I'm sure you all can appreciate, that's a very complicated subject and one that I would never profess, thank goodness, to being an expert on. So as Steve mentioned, the funding for the project, it came about mostly from the tornado relief money, and that the Department of Housing and Urban Development, as they developed their plan to do disaster recovery, they looked at the number of units that had been destroyed in Trotwood, and they had indicated in their approved plan that 80% of these units were to be built in Trotwood. And so, like good developers, when the state comes out and says that they've got funding for a particular area, we go out and try and serve that need as they're our customer as well as the community. So the 3 developers, ourselves, Pivotal, and St. Mary Development, found sites, and we're in the process of going through the development of them. There'll be 63 units of housing, a mix of 1 and 2 and 3 bedrooms. The income restrictions will be at 60%, 50%, and 30% of area median income, which I'll get to the details on in a minute. It is important to note that the RFP from the Ohio Housing Finance Agency required that we have 10% of the units, 20% of the units be at 30% of the area median income. I believe that was a result of the survey of what was lost in the tornado, but I will leave that to greater minds than mine. The project amenities include on-site parking, a community room, playground, on-site property management, and controlled building access. The unit amenities include ceiling fans, Energy Star appliances, mini blinds, washer dryer hookup, and central air. The unit mix, as I mentioned, OFA required that we had 20% of the units be at 30% of the area median income, and that means 13 of them. And that means that the maximum income for a 1-person household is $18,690. 2-person income of a 2-person household, $21,360. A 3-person household, $24,000 and change. A 4-person household, $26,700. And we will have 4 1-bedroom units and 9 2-bedroom units of that income restriction. We will have 13 units that are at 50% of the area median income, and those incomes by family size range from $31,000 to $48,500. And we have both 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms at that income election. And then we have the majority of the units at 60% of area median income, and that runs from $37,000 for a 1-person family up to $57,700 in income for a 5-person family. The funding sources, as we mentioned, we've got 4% housing credits. We are going to put solar on the building, which I'll get to in a minute, so we're going to have some clean energy credits. Ohio Housing Finance Agency has provided the bulk of the funding. Montgomery County has provided $500,000 in home funds, and then the project will have long-term financing provided by Freddie Mac. The energy savings for this building are really phenomenal. We will end up with a 75% energy use reduction. And, you know, talk about all the greenhouse gases and all that kind of good stuff. But the reality of it is it means that the residents that live there will pay between $34 and $48 a month in utility expense, which allows those families to not be rent burdened. And the solar panels that are being put on the building, we had an option of doing a master meter and selling the power back to the grid, or providing that savings to the residents, and 90% of the solar power that is generated will come right off of the residents' utility bills. And that will get them anywhere from $40 to $70 in savings each month, according to some very educated engineers that do this for a living. I'd like to tell you I understood all their calculations, but I became a real estate developer for good purpose. Now, with extreme energy efficiency, it will result in the buildings being deemed a clean air facility under the Ohio Revised Code, which is why you got the letter outlining the tax impact as a result of us being a clean air facility. And those bonds will be used for both construction and for the long-term debt. And in looking at the district, and a comment was made at the zoning presentation regarding the number of economically disadvantaged students that are in the district, which, according to my understanding, is like 86,000 or 86%. And in looking at the definition of what economically disadvantaged students are, it would seem that there, at the lower income tiers, that there are some overlap, and some of those students will be meet that definition of economically disadvantaged. Depending on family size, certainly some of those income levels aren't where we would have folks that would fall into the economically disadvantaged. So there's a question, you know, and of course those are maximum incomes, but unlike the Section 8 program where you pay a percentage of your income to rent, there is a stated rent. And I think the highest 3-bedroom rent is like $1,000 a month. So to pay $1,000 a month, you can say, well, Bob, those are the maximum incomes. You didn't say a minimum income. The reality of it is that we have a tenant selection criteria that, based on the rent, will limit how little you can make. And if you're paying, 1 minute, yes, ma'am. So if you're paying $1,000 a month, that can't be more than 30% of your income, typically, so that there's a floor there. So I just wanted to know if you had any questions, or if there was any concerns about the income levels of the residents and what impact that might have on the school district. So if you have any questions, I would welcome them.
You can go for it.
You said low-income housing and the tax credit. A lot of our families from Trotwood that was already displaced when the tornado hit, 90% of our families have been reunited and or have placement. So what population of students and families will be actually targeting this apartment complex? 21%, 24% is extremely low. And what other areas have you guys presented this great low-income housing program to?
And the question is, where's our target market? Where do we think the residents will come from? We find that predominantly, and we'll be happy to share with you the primary market area that was determined by the market study professional, but we find predominantly folks will come within the same school district. These are highly energy efficient new units, and they'll have an opportunity to move from existing housing within the district is where most of them will come from. We hope that there'll be folks that have relocated from Trotwood, which will come back to Trotwood. But to be clear, and I don't want to be misleading, the primary market area does not, is not limited just to Trotwood.
So, are you done?
For right now, yes.
I guess I'm trying to think, why would this be good for Trotwood and why would it be good for the school district?
Well, there's a couple of points to that. One is there's a tremendously constrained rental stock issue in the city of throughout the Montgomery County. There's a very tight rental market, which is leading to some very large rent increases. And also, as businesses grow and want to come to Trotwood, they need to have housing for their residents to live in. And that having 195 additional units in the marketplace will help ease the incredibly low vacancy rate, which is causing rents to go up as high as they are. And your other question was, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, was what other communities have we built this housing in?
I think she said,
Yes.
what other markets have you looked at to build this housing in?
Well, in this for this particular community, HUD indicated that the money needed to be in the Trotwood zip code.
Oh, okay, so basically, there's a
And in
grant for this area only.
Yeah, because of the number of rental units that were lost in Trotwood, through that analysis, it was determined, and it's in the HUD-approved recovery plan. Sorry, I was struggling for that word. That 80% of the dollars had to go into Trotwood. So the Ohio Housing Finance Agency did an allocation round in '22, which they did not do a good job on. It resulted in all of the money being awarded essentially to Harrison Township. Both the elected officials at the county and city level and the Ohio Department of Development were not pleased with the fact that they didn't follow the HUD-approved plan. They revoked those reservations. In '23, they went back out for request for proposals, and ourselves and a couple other developers were successful in obtaining an allocation of funds.
I guess I don't see how bringing another low-income housing development to Trotwood would attract other businesses that would need to pay taxes to be here. I don't see how that would be beneficial, but.
Because the median income is too low for right here, so it's not gonna attract other businesses.
Right.
I want to make sure that I make a clarification because it was me who gave the 86%. That is our current number of economically displaced students. That is not a number that would result in this project coming. But my question is this: if you're unable to find people who meet the income markers or the income restrictions of this particular development, what happens to the vacancies if you're not able to find people in those rent categories?
Based on our experience and our market study, finding folks that need high-quality, reasonably priced housing is considerable in this town. And when I say this town, I'm talking about the Miami Valley area in general. Trotwood is not anything special in that regard. And every community that we've built utilizing this program is 100% occupied with a wait list, and we anticipate that that will be the case here.
So in the event that it is not 100% occupied, what happens to the vacancies in the project? I understand that you've had success, but let's just say since Trotwood right now has over 1,300 available doors that are marked for low-income housing now, in the event that your property was not able to fill those vacancies, what would happen to the property? Who would go in them?
Well, in response to, one of the things that you have to keep in mind is that this is, while it is affordable and the government puts money in to allow us to keep the rents low, if no one shows up at a particular rental income, then we're gonna have to move the rents down in order to attract folks to move in.
So,
That having been said, we've never had a problem with that. And the market study shows that there's tremendous demand. The community lost 1,400 units due to the tornado. And all you have to do is look at the rent appreciation in this marketplace to see that these units are very much needed.
so 90%, I just want the community to understand. 90% of what was lost in the tornado has already been replenished. So what the gentlemen that are here proposing today is in addition to that 90% that has already been replenished. So, and in their defense, when this was tabulated and when these funds were given, that it wasn't 90%. You know, we still had areas in Trotwood that weren't back up and running, but we've had some things since then come back online. But we need to make sure that we understand that the answer to that question is that it increases our stress with being able to help our students that we already have today before we do any project like this, 86% economic disadvantage. So that's the answer to the question. It could potentially increase the number of people that we have to service, which it's not that we don't want to do that, because Trotwood has been more than a willing partner to do it for generations. In fact, right now we have availability in our existing housing stock that families can come in and they can take advantage of those things. And it's not to beat up on the work that these gentlemen do, because they do really good work, and their companies they do really good work. But at this point in time, to Luana's point, Trotwood is a place that has taken on Montgomery County's voucher program for a very long time. So we're not gonna act like we're not that. And the difference in Trotwood now is that it has leadership that understands exactly what these projects are. So that's my last.
So to make sure that I understand what you're saying, that the concern is that with the rents and the income levels that we're going to contribute to or not make better that 87% of children who are,
I think that it's 0% chance that it does.
I'm sorry.
I think that it's no chance.
But that's, so if we were a market rate property or had significantly higher rents, because we've targeted 30, 50, and 60% rents, because based on the market study, we thought that that was what was doable. There is an opportunity in the program to do what they call income tiering, which would allow us to increase our affordability to 70 or 80% of the median income, which then increases the average.
Yeah, there's one other question that I had, because what you mentioned the companies that are coming to Trotwood, those that are going to be bringing jobs to the area. Well, the company that just signed on to have 200 people come and work here is Tenneco. Tenneco's average salary is $67,000. So literally no one that works for Tenneco could live in these properties based on the numbers that you've given us. Now,
Well, but there will
Could
be
you help?
ancillary jobs created as a result of that. But if we could circle back to my question, is the issue that we're going to bring economically disadvantaged students to the district? And if we could change that to have a rent structure and an income level where that was not likely to be the case, is that a more tenable position?
I'll talk to you. I'll say this. I think that we should be focused more on increasing the number of homeowners and being able to attract young families in Trotwood. I think that we have done our due diligence and we've done our part in setting up a structure in our community that services those that are on voucher programs. I have friends of mine that have used programs like these and are now executives and are ready to scale. We have families right now that live in Trotwood that are in these same kind of situations that you're describing that want to get ready to be able to purchase homes. So any development that comes in front of the school district, because I also want the community to know that this project has been in the works for more than 4 years, and this is the first time that we've seen the developer. And there is an abatement that was tied to it that came in at 74%. So I want the community to understand that at 75 is when they have to come to the school district and talk to us about it. So I just, those are just facts, and those are the things that we have to be able to tell the community so that you guys know. So to answer that question, we understand the program of educating economically disadvantaged students. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to move our community forward. And when you look at these numbers and not being able to answer the question straightly about what would happen if we can't fill these income markers, because on the surface level, somebody that makes $52,000 in Trotwood, that's great. But what if we can't find the families that can? And the answer is, well, maybe we can go back and adjust. But if we allow the properties to move forward, which our city council denied unanimously on Monday night, if we allow them to move forward, then we're gonna add to a stock that we're already taking pretty good care of and that we already have available. Remember, Trotwood right now has 775 open doors that have those programs available.
But when you say 775 open doors, what do you-
775 doors available for people who are low-income people. They can come to Trotwood right now. We have apartment complexes that will allow them to.
I just want to make sure that I understand you, sir, that you're saying there's
I'm
775
telling you, there's
vacant-
775 vacancies in 45426 today. Today. Hey, guys, I do this for a living. Neighborhood development, underserved communities. This is what I do for a living. So, anybody that wants to talk about, come in front of our Board of Education and talk about increasing home ownership in our communities, I'm more than willing to, we're more than welcome to talk to you about that.
Well, but it
And
sounds.
I'm speaking for me, not for everyone.
Right, well,
But for me.
that's fine, you're welcome to your opinion, but the dwelling on the percentage of children that are economically disadvantaged seems to be part of the concern on the reason that folks are against this particular community. And I think the reality of it is that.
I had to push back. I think that the existence of these kinds of communities in our community is the pushback. It is not this particular development. It is the fact that we have these existing in our community right now.
And when you say existing, you're talking about low-income housing?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I'm not trying to beat up on you, I promise.
Oh, no,
I'm just passionate about, being able to make sure that we have equitable solutions for our families. And we have to have representation that doesn't wait 4 years or 3 years to come before our Board of Education. And you know what? That's not your fault. That's the leadership that we had in place prior. So, that's
Well,
not
and
you
it is
guys.
atypical for a developer to address a zoning issue or a development issue with a school board unless you, as you indicated, that there's an abatement request that requires the consent of the school board.
Was there an abatement request for this particular project?
They're under the Ohio Air Quality Development Authority. Sorry, that one I gotta pause and think. We are looking to get an abatement, yes.
Okay.
Actually, technically, it's an exemption. And as a result of sending the statutory notice to the school board, we thought it only appropriate that we appear in front of the school board and allow them to have any questions. One of the reasons why I want to get with the treasurer is that looking at the 19% of the funding that comes from the real estate taxes on average, that I don't really have a handle on if there's a decrease in the local real estate taxes and you have additional students, and so you get the additional state funding, based on your breakdown between variable and fixed cost, it's difficult for me to understand how that economics work. And we are concerned about the impact on the school district. That's one of the reasons we're here.
Well, I mean, I can tell you as someone who grew up here, I'm 42 years old, I graduated from Trotwood in 1999. The passing of the law and the concentration of those kind of projects in Trotwood, you can see the decline in our school district, and it matches those particular projects. So,
I can explain too a little bit about the finances. As you say, each child that we do get a certain amount of money, but we end up having to spend more money because a lot of our students have disabilities. They have things that cost us more, so we end up on a deficit from the state funding so it would seem like the more kids we get, the more money we would have, but it really doesn't always work out that way for us. And I think that's one of the concerns. And one thing that kids really do learn from is seeing other kids and families who are able to do things that we want our kids to do. And if we bring in students who come without some of those things that if you brought in like people making the money that you're talking about, not lower, but what you're talking about or higher, then we would have just a different set of experiences for our kids. Also, I mean, just to be honest, the state penalizes us by labeling us as a low-performing, low district, and that causes a lot of problems. So that's a bit of why you get this feeling that it's like we're, by saying that we're willing to allow even, lower incomes, if you were saying the places didn't get filled, then we just see that as bringing in situations that don't help the kids who are actually moving into the houses either. I mean, because they're then in a situation that's struggling to grow, to get better.
So essentially, to summarize, that you look at home ownership as attracting a higher income profile, and therefore, and I get what you're saying about the mix of children, but that home ownership comes with it with a profile of a higher income resident, and so that's preferred over the proposed community.
No, the proposed, I think, if I understood correctly, the proposed was fine. The question that was asked was, what if they're not full? And then you said,
No.
then to attract
No,
them, we would take the income down.
Well,
No,
is what
Dr.
I thought I
Cosby, the
heard.
proposed community is not
Not
fine.
fine.
I want
really?
to
No.
make that perfectly clear.
Okay.
The proposed community is not okay.
And
Right. I would like for you guys to propose something like first-time home ownership, low affordable homes instead of apartments. I think when you say home ownership and you have people with the income that you're talking about buying homes, it gives them more confidence, and then it helps our community. But just low-income housing, I don't see how that helps us. And Trotwood is very special.
I guess I could ask another question, because to Luana's point, and I swear to God, this is my last question. I mean, there are some programs that are available to be able to create first-time home buyer space. What research have you guys done on partnering with local developers, partnering with financial institutions to possibly create that in Trotwood?
Well, County Corp has a long track record of doing single-family home ownership in Trotwood. Okay, they've actually owned, if I'm not mistaken, you own 5 more lots that you have planned and are working on it. So they've been a real leader in the Trotwood community in stabilization and helping people become homeowners. When the Department of Housing and Urban Development through the state issues money to rebuild units that were lost in the tornado, and those are for rental units, you can hardly fault the development community for proposing what it is that
Yeah,
the
no.
government said that they want.
Yeah, no, you can't fault you can't. The
but-
development community, you can't fault, but you also can't fault the community that has the second highest number of vouchers in Montgomery County for saying, hold on for a second. You know, so on that same token, you can't fault us as a community for asking the questions as well.
Is there an opportunity to go back, because you wrote the RFP and say, hey, this is not what that community needs, they are wanting single unit homes, is that an opportunity?
The reality of it is if
You lose it.
these three communities don't move forward, it's our expectation that that $10 million and the $50 million worth of related economic development won't happen and the funds will go back to HUD. And real quick, while the jobs that the employer you referred to average, what did you say, $67,000 a year? There'll be a fair number of ancillary jobs that pay significantly less than that, that this housing is appropriate for.
And Tenneco is not relocating from another market. They're relocating from Miamisburg.
I'm
So, I
sorry?
mean, They're relocating from Miamisburg.
Okay.
So if you have ancillary positions that they're gonna be moving to Trotwood, are those people gonna move from Miamisburg to Trotwood? Is that what we're suggesting?
I'm referring,
Well, I don't see the low-income residents bringing anything back to Trotwood.
No.
I think that's what we're trying to get away
Well,
from,
there
so
has to
we
be
can.
a certain median for those retailers to be even attracted.
Attracted.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that we also need to be clear, like, it's not that we want, we have it here. Trotwood has a poverty rate right at 26%. I mean, we have a good mixture in our community. You know, we have to start focusing our development on different things.
Yeah.
That's just my that's my soapbox.
No, it's mine. When I moved here 27 years ago, Trotwood was very different.
And that's not that's like, to your point, that's not the developer's fault. We don't mean to beat up on you, you just, you know.
for what it's worth in the scheme of a developer, this constitutes an exceptionally polite conversation. I've been beat up before, and this isn't it. You haven't told me that I
just
want to
want to make sure
drown
that Steve doesn't
children.
I just want to make sure Steve doesn't cancel his meeting with me next week.
So, anyway, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. And thank you guys for the work that you do for the community.
All right, item number 3, treasurer's report.
Yes, I just have one item this evening, information, and that's the approval of minutes for the March 6th, 2024 work session and the March 21st, 2024 regular meeting. And that's all I have this evening.
Okay. I need a motion for the approval.
Information.
Oh, just for information, I'm sorry.
A motion to approve.
Just information. Next, we'll have the superintendent's report.
Okay, I'm going to make up for what Ms. Allen did not have. I have quite a few things on tonight, but they are off information. I will start with Madison Park Elementary has received a check in the amount of $203.74. It reflects the Commission for Fall Student Pictures for the 23-24 school year. The donation will be used for student and staff activities. She's asking for the board's approval to deposit it into the principal's fund. Aisha Wilburn, from principal of the Early Learning Center, also has a check in the amount of $75. Is the percentage check from the Child Safe Kit Partnership. They earn $1 for the school for every safety kit submitted by parents. She's asking for the board's approval to deposit it in the principal's fund. From Mr. Smith, athletic donation. He'd like to recommend that the Board of Education accept a $200 donation for the middle school cheer program from the following: Different Ministries in Christ Incorporated on 546 Recess Drive, Dayton, Ohio. Mr. Smith would also like to have another athletic donation of $500 for the middle school cheer program accepted from Trotwood MB LLC, 307 East Main Street, Trotwood. Mr. Smith also has another donation, athletic donation, for $175 for the middle school cheer program from the individual, Mary J. Peters, at 2761 Bankway, Potomac Falls, Virginia. And Mr. Smith also has another athletic donation. Recommend that the Board of Education accept a $250 donation for middle school cheer program from Rosemary Peters Brain from 2721 Athens Avenue in Dayton. And then we have JROTC Robotics requesting approval for them to travel to Batesville, Mississippi on April 3rd through 5th and 2nd through 24th. The trip will be supervised by Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Odell A. Graves and will be paid for with JROTC funding. The students will travel by charter bus. Students will compete in the all-service JROTC aerial drone national championships, where they will demonstrate knowledge and understanding of UAS flight operations, coding, communications, and teamwork. Upon return, they will conduct an after-action review to discuss strengths and weaknesses and prepare for the high school regional championships. We all know that those are really good programs. They've brought things in here for us to see. We also have a request for Trotwood-Madison High School's Robotics Club to travel to Flint, Michigan, May 16th through the 19th, 2024. The trip will be supervised by, again, Lieutenant Colonel retired Odell Graves and will be paid for with JROTC funding. The students will travel by a rental vehicle. Students will compete in the regional drone competition to demonstrate knowledge and understanding of the components of UAS flight operations, coding, communications, and teamwork. Upon return, they will conduct an after-action review to discuss their strengths and weaknesses. We also have from Mr. Smith, he'd like to recommend that the Board of Education approve an overnight trip for our middle school cheer team. It'll be 10 girls going to Houston Woods Lodge and Conference Center for the Ohio Association of Secondary School Administrators Cheer Camp. The travel dates will be June 15th through the 16th. There will be 3 staff chaperones, which are Adrian Robinson, Dr. Tasha Middleton, and Dr. Tasha Johnson. The cheer camp budget is $4,594.60, which will cover OASSA cheer coaches' equipment, rooms, conference space, and meals. This will be paid for by donations and fundraisers. Mr. Smith says, if there are any questions, please let him know. And I will say that we're obviously getting those donations in, so I'm optimistic that between now and June, they should be ready to go. We have another athletic donation. This is to accept the following donations. Mr. and Mrs. Jonas Smith, 50 student tickets for a total of $250 to the OHSAA Boys Basketball District semifinal game, which was on March 1st against Chaminade Julienne. And Miss Janice Allen paid 20 student tickets for a total of $100 to the OHSAA Boys Basketball District semifinal game against Chaminade Julienne. Okay. And then finally, I do have a personnel agenda that I would like to share with you. We'll start with the certified personnel agenda, A1. is a recommendation for the approval of the following certified resignation for the 23-24 school year. A2 is a recommendation for the approval of the following certified adjustment and retirement date. A3 is a recommendation for approval of the following certified supplemental for the 23-24 school year. A4 is a recommendation for the approval of the following certified substitute teachers for the 24-25 school year. A5 is a recommendation for the approval of the following certified supplemental adjustments for the 23-24 school year. Our classified personnel agenda, Agenda B. B1, recommendation for the approval of the following rescinded termination for the following classified staff member. B2 is a recommendation for approval of the following classified resignation for the 23-24 school year. B3 is a recommendation for the approval of the following classified new hire for the 23-24 school year. All of those things are for information, and so I would like a vote next meeting. What is it for action on there? Okay. Then, have it.
Okay. I will need a motion for item G, approval of the personnel agenda.
I'll make the motion to approve the personnel agenda as stated.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved in second. Are there any questions?
Is it just the personnel agenda or all of it?
Just the personnel agenda.
So everything else is for information?
Yes.
Are there any other questions? Ms. Allen, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Mrs. Simmons,
Yes.
Mrs. Curran,
Yes.
Mr. Davis, Mr. Lumpkin,
Yes.
and Mrs. Cherry.
Yes. Motion passes for the approval of the personnel agenda. Next, we have discussion, follow-up items, and updates.
So we'll start, today what we brought to you was the grade band, 2nd through 5th grade, moving from the two buildings that we have that are 2nd and 3rd grade, 4th and 5th grade, to 2 through 5. And Mrs. Rachel Murdoch, our curriculum director, will be presenting the information for you.
So we just put some slides together just to kind of give you an idea of the process we've gone through, the research, and then where we currently are with this proposal. So included in this is a proposal to combine the two buildings. To make two 2-5 buildings with larger grade bands. And then we also have some information about potential after and before school care. So we really started looking at this proposal based on our data. So that first slide shows data over several years, and each of the ribbons is a year. So when you look at that, the red ribbon is 2021, green is 2022, yellow is 2023. And on the top you have Madison Park, where you can see that we still are not at the proficiency rates we want to be in, because we still see the widest parts in the limited section, but there is some width there in the proficient section. So those are our 3rd graders. But then when we get to 4th graders, even when we start looking at subsequent years, so the red 2021 proficient year becomes a much smaller 2022 green year, and those are the same students. So this kind of gives you an overall picture, and then we can look at just some more specific numbers. So on this next slide, you see just year over year, when we have cohorts traveling from 3rd grade to 4th grade, we are typically seeing a decline in performance. So this slide shows that decline from 3rd to 4th grade in math, and then that decline continues. And we do, and I'll present some research in a few minutes, see that that transition between buildings is a factor in that decline in proficiency. So we see a similar pattern in language arts. Now, we do see more recovery in language arts when students move from 4th to 5th, but there's still the decline they have to make up for from 3rd to 4th with that one, there is 1 year of exception there, but for the most part, the same pattern. And so that just a third way to look at that data, these are the proficiency percentages of change. So the percentage of change from 16 to 17, school year 17 to 18, from 18 to 19, 21 to 22, and 22 to 23. So we have the one outlier in ELA from 21 to 22, but in most years we're seeing a decline in proficiency overall. And so we did look into the research on frequent school moves, and we have several research studies cited there that focus on some of the things that we felt were most important in having a longer time in a building. So things like teacher-child relationships, social and emotional changes, academic achievement, educational attainment, and socioeconomic disparities. And as you can see from those bullet points, we see negative impact on all those areas, and that children from low socioeconomic demographics tend to fare even worse when they move multiple times during their school years. Now, as we looked at that, we also did consider the impact of relationship building on chronic absenteeism, because this is another area of concern in our school report card. And so for 2022-2023, these are the rates of chronic absenteeism at Madison Park and Westbrook Village. The goal for the state was under 20%. And so you can see that we are significantly over that. And we know that getting children to school, having those relationships with adults, with other children, will impact them socio-emotionally, and it will also impact their achievement. So we did want to also include chronic absenteeism and ways to combat that absenteeism. Right, so based on looking at that research and that data, we did develop five objectives as we went into these proposals. So the first is to reduce learning loss from building transitions. The second, to provide equitable access to a continuity of programs for academic achievement. In other words, to make sure that that's seamless between grades 2 through 5. The third, to develop environments focused on relationship building opportunities for social and emotional well-being. The fourth, ensure equitable distribution of licensed teaching staff. And the fifth, to provide low-cost childcare to reduce chronic absenteeism. Right, as part of this process, the superintendent is convening a committee. She's organizing that right now, but these are the representatives that we will see on the committee. Of course, the superintendent will chair the committee. It will also include principals, teachers, counselors, staff members from operations, from student services, from curriculum, and from human resources.
Yes, the question was, could we add parents? And we can add parents, we could also
Yes.
add a board member if someone would like to. Because we don't want it to be too big, we were hoping maybe like 10,
Yeah.
12 people,
like that,
something
yeah.
like that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Parents and a board member. Yep.
Sister Dean worked up, she's a board.
Yeah, and we, in fact, Dr. Cosby and I were talking earlier, so we hope to send some invitations out for that committee. She'll send them out next week, so we'll get started on that. All right, so all that said, this is just the timeline as we see moving through this proposal. The first two things have already happened. Dr. Cosby sent a letter to all staff on Friday, March 29th. On Monday, she also sent out a survey to staff and to families. That went out through Parent Square, and I'll come back in a few minutes and talk about other ways we're going to get that survey out to our constituents. Of course, we're having this discussion tonight to bring you up to date on the proposals. We will be sending a survey to impacted staff, and that will be staff members at the ELC, at Madison Park, and at Westbrook Village the week of April 8th, so that'll go out next week. We'll begin next week looking at enrollment maps. We expect that to take a few weeks as we get that information together. Dr. Cosby, as I said, will be convening committee meetings, and so we expect to have a few meetings during the remaining month of April. Dr. Cosby will speak to Heroes of the Household, to that parent group, on April 15th. That'll be part of their agenda. We plan to notify staff members of any changes by April 20th, and then notify parents and families prior to June 30th. Okay? And this is our projection. This is what we
Right.
project will happen.
And again, we're getting in the information, which we'll share a little bit with you, what we've gotten so far, from communities and the staff, to make a final determination about this. But we're feeling very confident with what we have at this point. We felt it was still important, since we want to get this done this year, if we decide this is the way to go. So that's why we have our projected timeline.
Right, so we did want to share with you what we see so far in the trends of the survey, but we also want to be transparent that we sent the survey out through Parent Square, so it went out to over 2,000 people, and so far we only have 126 responses. So we're going to send that survey out a couple of different ways. It should be going out on social media today, or maybe it already went out. I haven't checked. And we're also going to share a QR code and a bit.ly tonight so that people can access the survey that way. But while we wait for those additional responses, this is what we are seeing so far. These are the individuals who have responded. So far, about 40% of our respondents have been from parents. And then you can see the other groups. We have about 16% from the ELC, 19% from both Madison Park and Westbrook Village, and then some smaller percentages from our other buildings and staff groups. As far as the trends in the data so far, we do see that, so far most of our respondents agree or strongly agree that eliminating that transition between grade 3 and 4 would positively impact student achievement. A similar result for equitable access to continuity of programs. Most strongly agree with that. I think this is probably where we had the most agree, and I think that we would all agree with this too, that keeping students in a building longer will definitely help build strong relationships between staff and students that will positively impact their social and emotional well-being. And most agree or strongly agree that this will give us more flexibility in making sure we have properly licensed teachers for grades and content. And just to give a little context to that, Ohio teacher licensures have many categories. So you could be licensed as a PK3 teacher, which would mean you could only teach those grades. You could be PK3 with a 4.5 endorsement in a 2.5 building. That gives a lot of flexibility. You could also have a 4.9 endorsement, which means you could teach either at a 2.5 building or at a 6.8 building or a 9.12. So when we have more grades together, we also have more flexibility with our staff. Now, the next question was about before and after school care, and this was just to gauge interest in parents who would be interested. So that definitely got a strong response, yeah. And we do feel like adding that would really fill a need for our families. And so we have, Miss Adams has been in contact with Champions, which is a subsidiary of KinderCare. And that's just a first step, but they definitely have a good proposal that we think could work for our families to give them before and after school care starting at 7 a.m. and going to 6 p.m. So we'll have more information about that as we move through this. And then as far as that before and after care goes, this just gives us a bigger picture of how families anticipate using that, of those respondents we have thus far. And we can see a lot of the respondents we've had so far do think they would use it 5 days a week. And so, as I said before, we do have a QR code that you could use to take the survey now if you haven't done it yet, or anyone in the audience can. Or if you're watching, there's also a bit.ly that you could type into your computer or your phone or whatever device you're using and take the survey that way. And it is also going out on social media. So we hope that the next time we have an update that we will have more respondents and more information to share with you.
Thank you, great job.
You're welcome, thank you. And then we did link those articles that we cited at the end of this presentation, should you want to look at any of those.
We did have one other thing that we wanted to bring up, and that's the eclipse.
Yeah.
If
Yes.
that's all right.
Yeah,
That was part
so,
of our discussion before.
and I put some paper copies of that by your seat, Dr. Cosby, if you wanted to
Oh,
pass
okay.
them out. But we did send home information both to families and to our staff about the eclipse and resources that are available. So this is the message that went out through Parent Square to families and to staff about resources that are available for the eclipse. And I did give you all a pair of eclipse glasses in case you need those. And if you look through them and you can't see any light, then you know they're working. You shouldn't see any light, so don't be alarmed. Along with these resources, there are also some directions for how to create a pinhole camera should families want to do that at home. We did give glasses to all students and all staff so that they'll be ready to view the eclipse safely on Monday. Linked here for families are some of the watch party locations and activities, like those that are sponsored through the National Park Service, through the City of Dayton, and through the National Museum of the Air Force. And then there's also a State of Ohio website that shows the path and many other resources. So we hope our families will take advantage of those. And then Eric, want to switch that? And then we also sent information to our staff just about resources they could use this week leading up to the eclipse. There are a lot of teaching resources on the ODE website, as well as on COSI's website, NASA's website. Lots of resources to use to prepare students for what they're going to see on Monday, if it's sunny and clear, as we hope it will be. So that's it.
Anybody have any questions? I do, about the before and after childcare. Did I hear you say that you have identified a group that could possibly come in and provide a service?
We have identified a group that could possibly do it. We haven't contracted with them yet. We are still exploring options, but we do know of one group that could definitely do it.
Because that is something that could not be done in-house, where the kids could also maybe get tutoring after school or help with homework.
The program that, the Champions program
Okay.
would include that. It would include homework help
Okay.
and licensed staff. So it wouldn't be like structured tutoring, but they would be helping them get work through their homework and that kind of assistance.
And that would take place on our campus, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
and we would have options, like we could do it at either all 3 elementary sites, or we could decide to centralize it. We'd probably send another survey to families to see what they need, because we know there'd be advantages to both. Like,
Yeah.
nice to have it at each building, but also nice if you're only dropping your children off at one place at 7 in the morning.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there is a charge, but it's not as much as going to your own
Yeah, there is a charge, and there's also like, fee, not, oh, I'm
Title
using the
20?
wrong words, but
Title
there would
20?
be financial assistance, right? Yes,
So
yes, thank
families
you.
that already have Title 20, will they?
Yes.
Or will we help those families that don't have Title 20 apply for it?
Yeah, we could help them apply. In fact, should we go with this particular company, they would come to open houses in the schools and provide assistance.
Awesome.
So this is gonna be affordable before and after
It
child?
should be affordable, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not like daycare prices now, or?
Well, I think because of that fee assistance, a lot of our families would qualify, and I know Ms. Adams has also talked to Northridge. They use Champions now, and they said, I think most of their families are not paying anything or much at all. Yeah, so we'll look at all ways that we can assist with that.
I don't know, raising funds, they put like $30, and my thing is, I would wanna keep the cost to the minimum, so that parents who are barely making it and can't get financial assistance, because it's hard to get Title 20, the numbers are not really geared towards helping people who are just barely making it.
Yeah, and we can get more information about what that financial assistance looks like and what the costs look like as well.
Thank you so much, Ms. Murdock.
Sure.
Good job, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, number 6, treasurer comments.
Yes, I wanted to let everyone know that I had the great opportunity to attend the debutante ball this past Saturday, March 30th, and it is sponsored by Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, which I am a member. And I wanted to let everyone know that we had one debutante from Trotwood. Her name was Angelina Colby Elaine Metcalf. And then we had the honor of seeing one of our guys, and I'm not sure if it was just one Trotwood escort. Okay, so the first escort that I knew about was Charlie Simmons. Charlie Simmons is the son of Deion Simmons, and he had the opportunity or the honor to escort the Miss Deb as well as the debutante that received the highest scholarship, $6,000 Jerusalem Bragg scholarship. And what was the name of the other escort? So it was very well done, and I was very pleased to be representing Trotwood as well.
Nice.
Here we go. Cooper Chatfield was our other ball. Cooper Chat. Cooper with the K. Congratulations, Cooper and his family as well.
And that's all I have.
Okay. Superintendent comments?
Yes, we're always proud to be represented in all of the cotillion, and debutante ball. I would like to also, it was announced today that we will have students going to, and I wrote this down but not all the way, the NCAA Women's Final Four. It'll be our drum majors. It's the flag corps, right? Yeah, drill team.
Okay.
Right, drill team. They just got invited, and it's an overnight thing, so they are allowed to go. I approved them, and they'll be headed out, and they'll be there tomorrow night at 7 p.m. So look for them. This color guard is who it is. They'll carry the flag. The color guard will be the ones that will be there. So again, we just found out about it, but I did want to announce it just in case anyone had an opportunity to watch the game. They might get a chance to see them, right? Also, April 10th, I wanted to just let families know this is going out, that on April 10th at the high school, we'll be doing an asynchronous day because we have a significant number of students who will be retesting. And so it'll be a small number of students who will be working from home on that day. And finally, I would like to let you know that we will be doing a mock crash on April 11th at the high school. And it's important that you know it's mock because they will have equipment here, police officers, fire, all of that, and it'll appear to be a major car wreck, but in fact, it's not a real one. It's an opportunity to remind students to be safe and careful on prom night. So that will take place on April 11th. I did get a chance to get into the buildings today. It was really exciting. I challenged my staff to do some things for me and our students, and I promised them that I would do some things as well, and one of those was to get into the buildings, to try to get into each building at least once a week. And so I started making that happen. So I was really excited. I saw a lot of really great things going on, and I look forward to continuing that because even though it is hard, you can always find something else that's important that needs to be done. Getting in those buildings and seeing what the teachers and staff are doing is really exhilarating, and it does give us the hope that we need. That's all I have.
Well, thank you, Dr. Cosby. Board comments? Honorable Currington.
Well, I wanted to say thank you to Caden, but he and his family left. He did an excellent job to be that young, and he read that so eloquently. So I really want to just give a round of applause to him and his teachers who supported him. That was really good. Ms. Murdoch, thank you for that presentation. It was wonderfully put together, color coordinated. I like graphs and charts. And the issues that I raised, I hope that they will be suitable for the parents in the community. But great job on that. Mrs. Sterner and Mrs. Wilburn, thank you guys. I plan to be at the art gala. I love the arts. I'm excited about dressing up. And Ms. Sterner, wear a dress, gym shoes and a dress. Mr. Smith, congratulations on your award for being elected Athletic Director of the Year for the Southwest District. A few notes. Did I cover everything I wanted to say? And great job on getting those donations in, and I will be getting you a check soon. Thank you always to everybody who shows up. I think it's important. And I got a little offended when a gentleman from Ober said Trotwood wasn't that special. Well, then he shouldn't want to be here. So you probably could see the aggravation on my face. But I just want to say Trotwood is very special. I think the best of the best come from Trotwood. The best of the best come to work in Trotwood. So I am Trotwood proud. My kids graduated from Trotwood. I live in Trotwood, and you will not disrespect Trotwood. And I'm going to stop there. Thank you all. I will not digress. I'll stop.
So in the absence of Mr. Davis, we'll go to Honorable Lumpkin.
You say, I'm not a judge, man.
I like to call you that.
First and foremost, again, congratulations to Jonas Smith on his award for being Athletic Director of the Year in Southwest Ohio. I got to get you a check of the